Live, where news comes first. This is ABC-7 Xtra.
Good evening, I'm Maria Garcia. Glad you're with us tonight on ABC-7 Xtra. After more than 2 years of delay, San Jacinto Plaza is finally finished and open to the public. The crown jewel of downtown El Paso was closed for about 3 years, a site of frustration and disappointment for El Pasoans. But this weekend, it was a site of celebration. Now, there are still a lot of lessons to be learned here, and we're going to talk about them, from how the city chose contractors to why it added items to the construction list. Joining us, or who was supposed to join us, City Reps Courtney Nyland and Peter Svarzbein. We're still waiting on Representative Nyland, who confirmed to our newsroom earlier this week that she would be here, but she is not yet here. We're hoping she will arrive during the program, but City Rep Peter Svarzbein just does join us. You can email us your questions and comments now to ABC-7Xtra at KVIA.com. You can also reach us at 915-496-1775 or tweet me at MariaGABC7. Before we start our discussion, though, let's get a recap of the grand opening this weekend. Here's our Jerry Nahera.
You know, the San Jacinto Plaza became the city's official plaza 113 years ago in 1903. And while it took a few years to renovate, people happily got reacquainted with Los Lagartos.
There was music, there was food, there was ping pong, and of course, the famous Lagartos. Some were skeptical of the change.
I was a little upset when I heard they were going to renovate it because I thought it was fine the way it was, and I didn't want them to get rid of any of the historical value.
But once they saw the iconic alligators, flashy signs, chess tables, and splash pad, El Pasoans already had their favorite spot.
The alligator fountain,
The Lagartos.
the canopy, the alligator, the ping pong tables. I wasn't expecting that. I think that's pretty cool.
It was a long time coming. Mayor Oscar Leeser apologized to the crowd about the delay during the unveiling.
We do owe you an apology for being late. We were late. It was not done in the timely manner that we would have wished it done.
But it's done, and Leeser says now that the gates and orange barrels are gone, all of El Paso can enjoy the first-class park.
For the quality and the finished product is incredible.
Residents seem to agree with him too, saying the wait was well worth it, giving it an overwhelming thumbs up.
Now, we have a fantastic downtown and everything that's happening here.
The vibe, you could feel it. People laying down and enjoying the whole weather.
You could just see and feel a different atmosphere.
A final price tag has not yet been released. It's definitely running into the millions. On a lighter note, people are already looking forward to using the plaza for the Neon Desert Music Festival. Reporting for Good Morning El Paso Weekend, I'm Jerry Nahera.
All right, Jerry filed that report for us this weekend. Thank you so much for doing that. With us, City Rep Peter Svarzbein. Next to him, an empty chair because we're still waiting for Representative Courtney Nyland, who confirmed to our newsroom that she would be here, and we are hoping that she will arrive. So, Peter, I want to ask you, construction began June 2013. Obviously, you've only been on council since last summer. You were not in office at the time, but you were in a citizens committee that looked at the design of the San Jacinto Plaza and provided the city with really valuable input.
Yeah, actually, the first month I came back to El Paso in 2011 after being born and raised here. I came back and I was asked to join a Citizens Review Committee chaired by Nestor Valencia, by then City Representative Steve Ortega. It was a 5-person committee. Catherine Brandon, Miguel Juarez, Joel Guzman, Mervyn Moore, and others were part of this committee. And basically what we were looking at as a committee was what are those things that makes San Jacinto Plaza El Paso's Plaza? What is it that we need to keep in that park and add to it that can really be reflective, not just of where the city is going, but what it has? And so some of those recommendations you actually saw into the final design. Number one was the formal axial design of the park, having the diagonal lines that you see in every single plaza from Santa Fe to Santiago, Chile. Every single town has something like a plaza there. Second was to keep the Lagartos by Luis Jimenez in the front and center of the park, and I think that everybody saw that. Another one of the recommendations was the balustrades, and something that I brought in personally from that committee was the suggestion for concrete ping pong tables and chess tables, which I saw in Tompkins Squares Park in the East Village in New York City when I used to live there.
Right, and we're going to get to those features in just a little bit. First, I want to talk about some of the learning lessons here here. Like we said, construction began June 2013. It was supposed to be completed January 2014.
Yeah.
And then the city said, you know, we're facing some delays. And then they said December, not of this past year, but the year before that. And then that didn't happen. And before you know it, it just kept extending and extending and extending, and it almost became sort of like this parody.
Right.
I mean, there were memes, you know.
No, the best memes was the Back to the Future memes.
Yeah,
those
Back to the Future.
Those were probably the best ones.
Yeah, where people were like, you know, 30 years later, and you know,
2061, I think it was still
yeah,
working on it.
and it's,
Yeah.
I mean, it just became, I mean, even like this running joke type of thing, and I
Yeah.
think it made a lot of people lose faith in the city, and you know, now you can say, oh, it's a great celebration, it's wonderful, but a lot of people are still like, it's unacceptable for it to take 3 years to finish the plaza.
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, again, I wasn't part of the council that had voted to use basic IDIQ. I haven't really been in there for the majority of the time that it was there. I can tell you that one of the things that this council has looked at is correcting some of the procurement issues that arise from that. Because what happened is you had a procurement issue where the lowest value was graded the highest.
Yeah.
So if you came in like basic IDIQ did, $2 million under the rest of the bids, you'd be de facto the #1 bidder. So one of the things that we're looking at now with some of the other projects that are coming online with the quality of life bonds are having it weighted not just necessarily towards cost but also experience. So if you've done projects like, say, build a plaza or build a park, you would get weighted higher than just necessarily how cheap you can do it.
Right, and you know, when we heard the presentation from the purchasing director a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
Bruce Collins, who briefed the city on why the system was set up that way, it seems so counterintuitive. I mean, common sense would tell you need to weigh experience as much as you weigh cost, because I think the consensus is from people whom we've spoken to is that Basic IDIQ was probably not the right firm for this project. In 2011, they told the city that they could get it done with $4.5 million, which was, as you said, significantly lower than the rest of the bids.
Yep.
At least another company who competed for the job told the city, and I was there at that council meeting, I remember it so clearly, the other company who was competing to build San Jacinto Plaza told the city council, it's impossible to do it with $4.6 million. I mean, you're not going to get it done with that kind of money. And at that time, the city management assured the city council, you know, we are confident in basic IDIQ. We are confident that this project will come on time and on budget. Fast forward later, I mean, I'm sure there are people who regret voting for basic IDIQ to get that contract.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of lessons to be learned, and I think that we're learning those lessons and trying to see what was there. And I think that part of what Bruce talked about is addressing some of those concerns there. But I think that at the end of the day with this park, you're looking at something that was really, I think that anybody that walks through that park understands it's really an exceptional jewel that we have here. And in previous councils, you know, there's always lessons to be learned. You know, there's always things that need to be tweaked that in hindsight somebody thinks it's a really great idea, but in practice it's different than in theory.
Yeah. So again, initially basic IDIQ said they could do it with about $4.6 million. That budget was eventually expanded to about $6 million. Right now, the city says they don't have a complete final budget.
The first budget was for $6 million. So that's what was budgeted in the quality of life bond projects was $6 million. So
Right.
It wasn't that the 4.5 and now whatever it's at is over budget. $6 million was what was budgeted originally for the plan that the voters approved in 2012, overwhelmingly approved. So I don't think that there's any hard number. There's a lot of issues and things that they're going about in terms of costs and everything like that. So I'm not exactly sure when we're going to get a hard number.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that. And that's also because, now that it's completed, the city has to go back with basic IDIQ, the contractor, and figure out how much the contractor owes the city, because as of May 4th, as of last summer, the city started charging the contractor basic IDIQ $1,000 a day for every day that it was delayed. So now the city and the contractor have to go back and forth and figure out how much it owes the city.
Yeah.
But on that note, basic IDIQ is not solely to blame. I mean, I know you were just elected last summer. This was a question that I was going to pose to Representative Nyland, but she's not here. The city requested nearly 24 change orders before last May. And some of those were big ones, like moving the large electrical boxes from over the ground to underground. I mean, that's an expensive, timely, complex addition to the project. So, when you have the city, and some of these changes came from city council members,
Which I was not a part of.
Which you were not part of, yeah, requesting to change these things. I mean, that delay, so it's, the blame isn't solely to blame with the contractor. Anything you'd like to add to that, Representative Svarzbein?
I think the park is really nice right now.
Okay, all right. Adrian, I'm sure people at home are thinking, gosh, that's really awkward.
This is hard because I wasn't a council member at the time when the change orders were made. I was not a council member there, and I'm not trying to not deflect blame there, but I don't really feel it's responsible for me to go and talk about what decisions were made when I wasn't there, and I'm not, and so it's hard for me to sort of respond there. I can tell you that since I've been elected, it was, I saw Representative Nyland really try to be on top of this as much as possible, and she was a tremendous advocate to get this done as quick as possible and to be the best value for the citizens.
Okay.
I really saw that. And I want to say another thing. Walking through the park yesterday morning, seeing Representative Nyland, she spent probably an hour going and talking to dozens and dozens of people, asking them everything from how their food was from the cafeteria to how the benches were, to see what their favorite part of the park was. I think that she took a lot of pride in wanting to see that park well there, and it was something really remarkable to see her take that time yesterday to really go and take the extra step in seeing what people were thinking.
Right, and we certainly hope that she's okay and she didn't have an emergency. Adrian tweeting at us, will the final cost be provided for San Jacinto Plaza, or because of the private money will the cost not be disclosed? This was all funded by public money. Again, it was
72% of the voters voted for the 2012 Quality of Life Bond projects.
And this was included in the Quality of Life Bond projects.
Yep.
Adrian also tweeting at us, hashtag SJP, hashtag San Jacinto Plaza, acronym there, is a symptom of a bigger problem, outside inexperienced contractor due to El Paso lack of laws to protect local business. Let's go to Rick in Central, I believe, on the phone. Hi, Rick. What's your comment or your question?
How can we build a ballpark in 1 year, and we can't build a park within 1 year? It took 3 years. It shows a sign of poor leadership.
Thank you very much. That's a comment we heard over and over again. Like, here was this massive project, this award-winning ballpark. I mean, top-notch, amazing amenities.
Yeah.
And then it was done in a year.
I know we dedicated the former head of the engineering department, Alan Schubert, was actually dedicated to that one project. That's how important it was. And
well,
so
and, it was, and there was also a private sector partnership component.
And it was a public-private partnership. Being on that, seeing that project happen, it was something that you really had an all-hands-on-deck approach. You had a design build that really helped to also continue that along, and there was also very fast deadlines. None of that excuses why a park, it took as long as it did.
But if you had, your head engineer on such a complex project, essentially completely hands-on on the ballpark, we're seeing then that this was around the time when the engineering department started to sort of display real symptoms that it was in trouble, that things started sort of unraveling. You had suddenly a bunch of quality of life bond projects on the pipeline, pending scoping of work that had to be done, and yet, including San Jacinto Plaza, which was in the quality of life bond, yet, no more hands on deck, a limited number of employees. We now know, based on some of the studies that the city has done, that apparently the engineering department lacked leadership until recently, and processes. So what's being done to improve that?
Well, the city just hired, I think over a little under a month ago, a public works director who's coming from the city of Baltimore. I think he was the assistant or deputy city mayor. He has decades of experience working in engineering departments and traffic departments, and so he's coming in here to really oversee not just the engineering department but traffic as well. And I think he's going to bring a sense of a veteran coming in here and being able to help with that. And also in the interim, Monica Lambrana has stepped up as well from the airport as well to provide some leadership too.
Right. Let's go to the phone lines. Ricardo is on the line. I believe it's Ricardo. Hi. What's your comment or your question?
I went to the park today, and I have two concerns. My first concern is that the cars are parking right next to the plaza on Main Street, and they're damaging the plants there. I think they have to paint the curve yellow so the cars will not park there. And the second is that the canopy, the alligator canopy was not lit, nor the color lights were on, and it looked real sad because maybe they need to work on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So Ricardo's saying some issues with the parking surrounding the park. He sees maybe some stripings would help so that cars will know exactly where to park.
Yeah.
And also said, that some of the lights on the canopy for the alligators weren't on and that it looked really sad.
Well, the park has been open less than 48 hours. There's always going to be some kinks that need to be worked out. Walking through and seeing it lit up at night, actually, I think it's pretty inspirational. And to talk about that canopy, going back to that Citizens Review Committee, one of the ideas was to have a lot of shade in the park, to have it as a green lung. And we were looking at something that maybe suggesting different trees could be planted closer to the Lagarto sculpture to shade them. The metal canopy sculpture was the metal canopy was one that came about in the final design. And while it looks very modern and a little bit unorthodox compared to the plaza that we've known before, it was actually really interesting to see it architecturally in practice, because what you saw was people gathering around the balustrades. That's the columns that surround the reflective pool with the Lagartos. People were crowding around it like they used to do in postcards that you would see from the 20s and 30s. It was a main attraction. People mostly spent their time around the alligators, on the balustrades. And what was interesting was to see that same action occur in 2016, partially because of the canopy. Because now the canopy provides shade. It's one of the most shaded areas of the park, pretty much almost the entire time of the day. So people were still congregating around the alligators. Granted, it was a sculpture from one of the most amazing sculptors from El Paso, but they were still there in the shade, throwing pennies and dimes back into the pool again. And I don't know if that's necessarily the most appropriate thing to do, but...
it's so interesting, because I think it was you who posted a photo on social media, or several people did, and I saw several people congregating around the Lagartos, and it just was so reminiscent of sort of the old black and white photos of the 20s and 30s of people doing the exact same thing. So it was a really interesting moment. The canopy, I mean, now you see it and you're like, I'm sure there's a lot of people who say, okay, I get it, it was worth it. But for a while, I mean, that was part of the big delay. It was like, it's in Germany. Something went wrong. It has to come back again from Germany. Oh, it's stuck in customs. It was.
There's a lot of lessons to be learned from the park. The cables are doing a great job now. Another thing about the lighting there is that you have 3 separate lighting sources. You have a lighting that's lit for the canopy, you have lighting that's coming down directly onto the Lagartos, as well as lighting for the reflective pool as well. There's such a tremendous amount of thought that went into the design, and that was probably part of why it took as long, is that the park itself is very intricately designed. There's a lot of different nooks and crannies, a lot of thought out places, and you know, it took time.
Right.
To do, but I think that the results of it are really great. Another thing about that is, you think about somebody visiting our city, and you know, different you look at the plaza that Santa Fe has, for example, or a plaza that you might see in another city. And our plaza, if somebody was coming visiting in and they're like, what is it about? They go to our plaza and they see at the center of it art. They see at the center of it a respect for culture and a respect for history, and I think that that's something that's really, really strong, and something that we should all be proud about, is that we chose as a community to celebrate our history and our identity.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to go to the phone lines again to get your comments and your questions, and we're going to talk about the design that Citizens Committee came up with, what City Council adopted from that design, and compare that to what the plaza looks like, the finished product. So stay with us. Remember, you can call us at 496-1775, email us at ABC7Xtra at KVIA.com, or tweet me at Maria G. ABC7. Welcome back to ABC7 Extra, everyone. We're talking about San Jacinto Plaza today. Let's get to Twitter, then we're going to get to the phone lines. Martin tweeting at us, is Basic IDIQ currently contracted to do any other work for the city of El Paso?
Don't know.
Yeah, I don't think they are. I don't think they are at all. And Gabriel saying, is the city receiving aggravation from privately owned restaurants or cafes after building their own with public funds? I'm assuming he's referring to the cafe inside the plaza.
So I don't yet know about that. That's something interesting, because myself, I've been involved in downtown. I actually had a pop-up gallery around there for a couple of years, and actually still have it. It actually, we opened up in the current space we are about a month before construction began on the plaza. What's interesting about the cafe that's there currently is that the times that it's operating, I think, are a little bit different than some of the normal times. Most restaurants around downtown are open around a sort of business schedule, so it's 11 to 3 usually. The park, from what I understand, the restaurant there is from 11 to 7, and I think it's a different sort of food there. You see this from time to time, these issues. I remember when the food truck city opened up the food truck food court that was there on Mills, there were some of the other property owners that were concerned that it might take away business. But what you see is when you have that bunching of restaurants and business, you actually get more people coming in, because now there's more options. And this restaurant, you know, the restaurant that's in the cafe might have a line. However, there's a restaurant that's half a block away that there is no line, so they might walk to that.
Okay. Adrian tweeting at us, as Courtney Nyland represents the area, her absence speaks louder than anything freshman council member Peter Svarzbein can address. And also tweeting at us, will the city plan to invest in all areas of El Paso or just focus on downtown?
I think that the city is investing in a lot of different parts. Again, San Jacinto Plaza was a quality of life bond project that was approved in 2012. The east side has a park complex. It's also going to have a pool in it, as well, an Olympic-sized pool, as is the west side. The northeast, as well as parts of my district as well, have trailheads that are going to be investments, and you have paved trails that were approved by the 2012 Quality of Life Bond projects that are throughout the city as well. So there's a lot of different parks and a lot of other improvements as well to many different parts of the city that are part of the Quality of Life Bond projects.
Martine tweeting at us, refresh our memories, but wasn't Rep. Nyland the one responsible for the work order changes? That remains unclear. We have looked into that. We do know there were city reps who at least provided input, potentially even directed some of the change orders, but that has not been independently confirmed. We don't know if she was responsible for the work order changes, but we do know that they came from the city. That's something that we've tried to look into, and that's something that we hope to ask her. But again, she's not here, and we hope she's okay and not having an emergency. Let's go to our phone lines. Let's see who's the next caller. Will on the west side. Will, what's your comment or your question?
I'd like to find out if they had this problem with the park, and the mayor acknowledges, because he apologized for it, how do we entrust the arena to these people? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, the $180 million arena, I mean, massive project. How can taxpayers, expect the city to deliver on time and on budget if it was such a nightmare with San Jacinto?
Well, I want to tell Will that Basic IDIQ will definitely not be doing the arena. I didn't know if he was referring to them or they as the city. Again,
He was referring to the city.
okay, glad to confirm that.
I mean, I think that's pretty clear. And as we mentioned, it's not all Basic IDIQ's fault.
So I think that, again, looking at these signature quality of life bond projects, the city has looked at tweaking the procurement process again to lend more than just value, but also experience.
Right.
So looking for people that have experience in building projects like a multi-purpose performance facility and arena, in building a children's museum. So I think that is important to weigh that there. Also, the kind of construction method, whether it's design, build, or looking at having a specific project manager similar to the baseball project, I think are also things that the city's exploring as well.
Right. So to make it sort of abundantly clear to Will, it comes down to the way the city was scoring contractors.
I think partially, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to take Juan on the east side on the phone and more of your emails and tweets. We'll be right back. Welcome back to ABC-7 Extra. Let's go straight to your phone calls. Juan on the east side on the phone. Hi, Juan. What's your comment or your question?
Instead of having the lowest bid, they need to get the most qualified bid to be on time and under budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you want to comment on that?
Again, I think that with looking at some of the procurement methods that we're adding to our toolbox, looking at not just best value but also experience, and having that weighed significantly as well, I think is going to help.
Let's go to James on the west side. James, what's your comment or your question?
Yes, Maria, I was wondering why Peter is taking most of the questions when he hasn't even been on council for a year. And second, why isn't Courtney Lyman there? She's an elected official. She should be there.
I agree with you. We had these questions prepared. We were under the assumption that Ms. Nyland would be here. Again, she confirmed with our newsroom earlier this week that she would be here. I don't know why she's here. I cannot speak to why she's here. She's a public official. I agree she should be here. I hope that it was not a miscommunication between us, but I was assured she had confirmed to be on here, and I have not heard from her counseling. And again, we just hope that she has not faced an emergency. But if she has not faced an emergency, I agree. She should be here answering these questions. Hence the empty chair. Okay, let's go to Joe from the Northeast. Is that who's next?
I'm very disappointed that the entire city council and city manager weren't there for the grand opening of such an important city project. That shows very poor leadership as far as the absentee city the council members that weren't there. Thank you.
So he's saying he's disappointed that he didn't see all of the city council at the grand opening. Were you there? I mean, you were there.
I was there. The city manager had a family issue that was going on there, so I was happy to be there.
Which city reps did you see there?
Rep Ordaz was there. She was representing District 6. Representative Acosta was there as well, as was I and Rep Nyland. I believe they were there.
Right, that's who you saw. Okay, and let's go to Twitter. Henry tweeting at us, has he heard back from PayPal? Has Representative Svarzbein heard back from PayPal? You started a social media campaign to get PayPal to move their offices to El Paso since they canceled opening their offices in Charlotte after the bathroom transgender bill that a lot of people think is discriminatory.
I think it is discriminatory. Again, I think that we have a lot of opportunities there. I personally have not heard back from PayPal. I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth, and I tweet them. But I believe that, I think that our economic development team and the people in the region that are responsible for economic recruitment are reaching out to them and many other companies every week. Again, but I think what was wonderful about it is again, us as a city going and speaking out about those things that make the city great. When there's an opportunity, as ugly as the law that North Carolina passed there, there's an opportunity for our city to talk about those values of tolerance and diversity and inclusion that we've had a history of that goes back beyond many other cities in Texas.
All right, Representative Svarzbein, thank you so much for joining us. We've run out of time. Lots to look forward to in downtown El Paso. We have the trolley coming, the arena in 2022 or 2023?
2021, I believe.
2021.
Mexican-American Cultural Center, the Children's Museum.
And that means a lot of construction,
a lot of great projects,
a lot of growth, and a lot of construction headaches.
I also had something for you as well.
Oh, okay. You make this a tradition every time
This is a tradition. Can you get the camera over on this?
I'm not sure we can.
This is a wonderful pin
from Jacinto Plaza
with the lagartos on there as well. I thought you'd appreciate it. It would look great on a blazer or something else. It's really, really nice. Just one of the wonderful gifts that were there on hand on Saturday. So I really hope that you cherish that, Maria. And again, it would look good on a blazer.
Is that a hint for me to wear more blazers?
Can't go wrong with blazers.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Svarzbein, we appreciate it. And thank you so much for joining us here on ABC-7 Extra. We hope you found this informative, and we'll see you next week.